champion. No matter what, I'm a champion, and nobody should have put Piper and I in that match. Who's to blame for that?
That wasn't my fault.
Ugh!
Grab your gabagool and let's do this. The road to Survivor Series has begun. I'm going to have to change my thumbnail, though, because William Regal, not allowed to say it until 2024. I tell you, especially the way that Tony Khan acts up, you would think that TKO Group Holdings and Nick Khan and Vince McMahon, everybody else would say, you know what, fuck you, and let William Regal do it anyway. I think this is more William Regal like, hey, I give my word, I keep my word. So Adam Pearce had to do it today. War Games. Expect it to be tweaked a little bit between now and 2 weeks from this Saturday. Yeah, we are less than 3 weeks away from Survivor Series. The push is on. So we're going to talk about Raw tonight. Remember, we do the ratings now on Wednesdays. That allows us to include tonight's Raw rating, tomorrow's NXT rating, this past Saturday's Collision rating. So that'll be on Wednesday's show. And in a little bit, we'll update Survivor Series, the card, and we'll preview this week in wrestling history. And I tell you, I had totally forgot about this. Unfortunately, it was because of the Chris Benoit murder, the S word. We don't need to say it on here. Just think former TNA wrestler under a mask. But, CNN did a whole special about, the Benoit tragedy and other things, and they called it Death Grip. You remember that? It was about 18 years ago. And I tell you, for the people that hated yours truly back then, imagine how they must have felt when they did this big profile about CM Punk. And lo and behold, that is the actual beginning of the segment on CNN. We come back from commercial and there's this giant fucking Don Tony sign. That was spectacular, but that's not what I'm talking about tonight. When we get into history, does anybody remember the hit job that CNN did to John Cena? It was funny. Somebody about 2 years ago went on YouTube and does one of those goofy reaction videos where they show like a picture of this, and then they're on the side going like this. I fucking want to punch people in the mouth every time I do that. If you have a legit reaction to something, that's fine. But, 16 years later, 2 years ago, you're going to make a big deal about it now, especially when the person's 30 years old. So they were old enough back then to figure it out. We'll revisit that in a little bit, because I guarantee there's a lot of you out there don't know about the hit job that CNN did. I always hated CNN. I still hate CNN. But especially after that special, I hated CNN even more. And that was before I even got into politics. But, we're going to talk about Raw. Raw is going to be the primary topic of discussion tonight. If you did not check out yet my recap review, and probably more important, the aftermath of Crown Jewel, make sure you check it out, because not only did we cover the show, but we got into several scenarios that will go down and likely go down and possibly go down leading into Survivor Series. Drew McIntyre tonight, I think everybody and their mother expected him to come out and break Sami's heart in that main event match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Nah, Drew McIntyre, he left. He was gone. Now we have to wait and see. Will we see Drew McIntyre again before Survivor Series? And keep in mind, there's only 2 Raws left to Survivor Series. That's not a lot of time. So it is very possible that Drew McIntyre may not be on Raw again until Survivor Series. Now, it would be kind of interesting how they would handle it, given the fact that War Games, everybody's locked inside. So how does Drew McIntyre get inside the cage? How does he interfere? We got to wait and see. I don't get paid that much money to give you those answers here now. One thing that really made me happy today, really happy, and one thing that I'll say it, I know there's a bunch of people online. I've said this, even nothing personal against Dana Brooke, but even when Dana Brooke got released, every person that you watch in pro wrestling, there is an audience. There is a fan base for everybody. El Fuego del Sol had fans that appreciated him. There's always a fan base for somebody. And, of course, you had a few people tonight, with the heart emojis about someone who got a title shot at Survivor Series. And no, we're not talking about The Miz. I will give you my honest thoughts about that. And I'm just telling it like I feel it. But first, I want to talk about what really made me happy today. And the fact that the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, not just the Creed brothers, but Ivy Nile are now officially on the Raw roster. If you remember last week when we talked about their match with Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, you felt, okay, where do they go from here? They have done a shitload on NXT, and now they are officially on Raw. And I tell you, tonight, we said it last week that there was definitely a boatload of nerves going on when they had their match against Alpha Academy. They've wrestled some dark matches before, but now you are on Raw. You are performing in front of, thousands of fans, and you're going to be viewed at home by millions, not just live, but on replays in YouTube and streaming media and social media. But not only that, last week you get a victory against Alpha Academy. And I've been talking about the smoke and mirrors by a lot of people. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on with a lot of people that are on WWE TV. And I tell you, probably one of the greatest smoke and mirrors job is The Miz. And I say that with love, because I've always supported The Miz. And I'm going to share a stat with you in a little bit that will kind of blow your mind. I mean, I don't think it'll be extremely shocking, but I think people will be like, wow, I didn't realize it was that skewed. I'll get into that in a little bit. But they are on the main roster now, and they face DIY today. And sure enough, Johnny Gargano, didn't we say it a week ago? Let's see a week or two from now. Let's see if DIY starts losing. I don't care if Ludwig Kaiser interfered. There's almost an interference in almost every match that matters. If you really think about it, you go on SmackDown, you go on Raw, there's always somebody with a little bit of shenanigans. When people don't interfere, it's usually a one-sided match. But DIY already lost today, and they lost to the Creed brothers. So, but the Creed brothers looked a lot better tonight than they did last week. And last week, they did a pretty damn good job. So, welcome to Raw, Creed brothers. They are officially on the main roster. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because we have watched them develop in NXT. And now when they get that seasoning on Raw, listen, there's been a lot of people that Triple H has brought back. And, I know everybody likes to do those emojis and do those animated files that make Triple H look like a genius. And when you really dissect it, Candice LeRae has done shit. Indy Hartwell has done shit. Xia Li, honestly, has done shit. They made her look like a total fool. And now tonight, after Becky Lynch loses the championship, she's not even in the Battle Royal, and she's going to come out there. That's calling a shot, preventing Becky Lynch from winning the championship. The whole fucking storyline was that she wanted a title shot, and she didn't get the title shot because in storyline, the idiot never fucking went for it. And now Becky Lynch lost the championship, and now you have a Battle Royal, and instead of saying, Adam Pearce, put me in Battle Royal, I deserve to be in Battle Royal. No, let me take out in storyline Becky Lynch. Yeah, that's what I always wanted. Seriously. I honestly think Nikki Cross right now is showing more smarts than Xia Li. And what did we get tonight with Nikki Cross? Yeah, pretty much more the same. We had a battle royal to determine the new number one contender for Rhea Ripley's women's championship. Nikki Cross is in the middle of the ring. Nia Jax and Raquel Rodriguez are looking at each other. And I guess they don't watch Raw because they had no idea that Nikki Cross was going to act like she's on the X drug, as I like to say, or chamomile tea if you want to be politically correct. And they're looking at her like, what's wrong with her? So they throw her over the top rope. And for the rest of the match, Nikki Cross is standing in front of the announcer's table. Now, if you really want to be sinister, wouldn't this be like if you had criminal intentions? Wouldn't she be like the ideal person to take out on a date? You could probably, let's not go there. No. I see, if this was 10, 15 years ago, I probably would get my mouth in trouble, but no. We like Nikki Cross. Almost a superhero, was kind of goofy, but we like Nikki Cross. And I mean that sincerely, putting all the bullshit aside. We're not going to go there. But still, I mean, in storyline, Nikki Cross kind of comes off smarter than Xia Li. So what happens? We get the Battle Royal, and you get, who do we get? Ivy Nile did a great job in that Battle Royal tonight. You had Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, not a bad showing. Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoey Stark, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. Who am I leaving out? Natalya, Tegan Knox. Am I leaving anybody out? Not too bad of a memory at my age. A lot of tag teams, teasing like they're going to brawl with each other. And you think, okay, the winner is not only going to face Rhea Ripley, but the winner is going to face Rhea Ripley at Survivor Series. Now, Survivor Series, pretty high-profile event. Maybe some people were wondering, would we get a surprise appearance by Jade Cargill? I think Jade Cargill will end up doing the NXT route first. I really do. I don't know if it'll be as early as tomorrow that she confronts Lyra Valkyria, but I think it's going to happen soon. But you see the participants tonight, and actually I do have the graphic here. Here's the graphic. Did I leave anybody out? Indy Hartwell, did I mention her? Oh, Maxine Dupree. She was in it too. Not a bad group. Becky Lynch was supposed to be in it, but Xia Li fucked that up. Becky Lynch could not continue. So you say to yourself, Survivor Series. Okay. Raquel Rodriguez, the odds-on favorite. Maybe Nia Jax. Maybe Shayna Baszler. No. At Survivor Series, this is just my opinion. A disclaimer, this is my opinion. Out of everybody on that match, they give it to Zoey Stark. Now, Zoey Stark, after the match, very pumped up, very animated, climbs the top rope. Remember what I said? There's always a fan base for somebody. So you look at the crowd, and there's about 116 people with some polite applause. I must take my glasses off for this. I'll probably make myself look like a fool. But in my honest opinion, Zoey Stark could be pumped up and excited. Yeah, it's my time. I'm there. You could be as excited as you want. We're not. I'm not. Do I fucking want to see that? Seriously? Zoey Stark, since the shit with Trish Stratus, and anybody remember in NXT, I thought Zoey Stark was on the fast track to come to that main roster. WWE Creative has done a shit job with her. You know, when she laid out Trish Stratus, people felt it should have been in the opposite. And then remember, she's like feuding with Shayna Baszler, and then they're kind of hanging together, and then they're teaming up, and then they're not, and then this, and then Crown Jewel. Well, you know, it's really every woman for herself. And then it's just Zoey Stark is not ready to be in that position. You want to do it in a house show a couple of times, by all means. All right. But let me give you a little stat here. All right. I was doing a little Rhea Ripley research. Say that fast 10 times. I was doing a little Rhea Ripley research. My chest hurts suddenly. And I was looking at Rhea Ripley's title defenses since she won the championship. Now, this is not every single time. Might have left out 1 or 2 title defenses since then. But what I have found, that outside of Crown Jewel, Rhea Ripley has not been facing Zoey Stark. Rhea Ripley's not been taking on Zoey Stark in the house show circuit. We don't know how this is going to go over. In my honest opinion, Rhea Ripley's going to get cheered out of the fucking building in Survivor Series in Chicago. Zoey Stark getting cheered in Chicago over Rhea Ripley? I mean, what the fuck were they thinking? So I'm looking at Rhea Ripley's stats. And Rhea Ripley, since she's been champion, she's faced Shotzi Blackheart twice. She's faced Zelina Vega 3 times. She's faced Tegan Nox 2 times. Nothing personal against those women, but not the upper tier of the women's division. She's beaten Shayna Baszler once, if you don't count Crown Jewel. And she's beaten Becky Lynch twice in 3-way triple threat matches. The other participant in those triple threat matches who ended up being pinned both times was Natalya. And she has beaten Natalya 17 times. 17. And Raquel Rodriguez, she has been beaten 7 times. You would think going into Survivor Series in Chicago that the best opponent for her is either Nia Jax, because I think even Chicago would boo the fuck out of Nia Jax. Raquel Rodriguez might be the best shot to get Chicago on her side. No, they put Zoey Stark. I mean, again, I have nothing personal against Zoey Stark. When she was in NXT, she was the one that I said she's on the fast track to the main roster. But WWE Creative has done a really lousy job to make me believe in storyline that Zoey Stark is a viable contender. She is not a viable contender. She's great in the ring. But when she's talking to Raquel and she's like, you know, I almost hit you with the Z360, or I feel like she's cutting a promo for a radio station. You know, WQHT, Z360 FM. You know, it's like, it sounds childish. Like, even in wrestling, I mean, I did crap as a manager or did little promos and stuff. I would feel like a goof if I said to someone, you know, I hit you with the Z360. You know, she's going to get eaten alive in Chicago. That's the best you could do for Rhea Ripley at Survivor Series in Chicago? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just, my honest opinion, I absolutely disagree with that decision. Did not like it at all. So, before we recap Raw very quickly, I just wanted to mention something, only because 99% of the podcasts and the websites out there are not going to waste their time. But I just wanted to make mention of a indie wrestler in Canada who passed away over the weekend. His name is Rob Thompson. They called him Rob Rage, not to be mixed up with Robbie Rage that used to be in WCW. 45 years old. He died in Canada. And here's the thing. He was wrestling at a charity event. And here is the billboard for that charity event. Hammering Cancer. He wrestled for charity. After the match was over, he was in the back in a locker room and went into cardiac arrest. And the wrestlers tried to resuscitate him. They rushed him to the hospital, but he passed away, 45 years old. And just so you all know, Rob Thompson, if you saw Dark Side of the Ring, and they did, I think it was Road Warrior Hawk. Remember when they did something on Road Warrior Hawk? He played Road Warrior Hawk. He actually did a few appearances on Dark Side of the Ring. But I wanted to mention it because, again, he's not a famous guy, but 45 years old, way too young. And not only that, everything you're hearing coming out of people who knew him are saying beautiful things about the guy. And honestly, they're not saying it because he died. If you look, even when he was alive, people used to say some wonderful things about him. He was a fitness guy, in the fitness world before wrestling. And he was wrestling about 7 or 8 years. And I'm not even looking at a bio. I'm looking at you because I got very interested in learning a little bit about him. And a big wrestling fan. And unfortunately, 45 years old, died right after wrestling for a charity event to raise money for cancer. So rest in peace, Rob Thompson. Just figured I'd mention that. So also, this is news. And, look, Ivar. I mean, we all have been impressed with Ivar on TV. Make no mistake about it. The last month, Ivar has been taking the opportunity and running with it. The problem is, you could run with it. You could put on amazing performances on TV. The question you have to ask yourself is that breaking through to WWE Creative? And the thing is that even when we started 3-4 weeks ago watching Ivar, we were joking and we were like, Erik must be concerned by it right now. We thought early on that Ivar, they gave him a singles match and he killed it. And WWE was like, I think we're onto something here. And that was the buzz going around that WWE thinks Ivar could be a single star. And let's give him a little run with it. Well, now we find out why Ivar started going singles and why he continues to be going singles. We give our best wishes to Erik. For those that are not aware, and I guarantee there's a lot of you out there that still do not know that Erik is married to Sarah Logan. Valhalla is here. So she was at his bedside, and this is a screenshot. Sorry, Rob, I got to take you off the screen. There is Erik in the hospital, just underwent neck fusion surgery. This is very similar of what Braun Strowman had earlier this year. His C6 and C7 vertebrae were fused together. And he had the surgery at St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. The surgery was a success, and he is resting comfortably. Now, as far as a timetable for Erik to return, you're looking at a minimum of, I would say, realistically, 9 months. I would say 9 months. 6 months would be listen, John Cena, do you remember when he had that surgery like over 10 years ago? And like 2 weeks later, he was backstage at Raw and people like, huh? Or SmackDown, people like, are you kidding me? I might have even been the day after he had the surgery or like 3 days after. It was crazy what we heard. Unfortunately for Erik, even if he did heal after 6 months, they are going to take it slow. Going to be like Roy Rogers and slow down. Big Daddy Kane reference for anybody that thinks it's familiar. So Erik, now we understand why Ivar suddenly started getting the singles push. But here's my point. For the last 2 weeks, even though Ivar's been impressive. We've been saying also, just because the fans feel a little buzz for Ivar doesn't mean that WWE Creative is suddenly thinking, maybe we could run him. Yeah, I think he'll have a match with Gunther down the line. Yeah, I could see Gunther, Bronson Reed, and Ivar doing something. But is WWE Creative, do they really have plans for him? I'm not that sure. On the house show circuit, he's losing to Kofi Kingston. And that's not anything bad. Kofi is a Hall of Famer. But Ivar, you don't feel that the Jets are being placed behind Ivar and like, hey, let's run with it. Bronson Reed, if you really think about it, it feels like, okay, let's get him upper mid-card so at least when we go to Australia, he can have a substantial match. But if you really dissect it closely, Bronson Reed was, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, brother. And I think people will agree with me when I say this. Gunther's title reign is starting to turn into Hulk Hogan's title reign in the 80s. And what I mean by that is, if anybody that was a WWF fan in the middle to the late 80s, before Macho Man really, became, world champion, there was a stretch where Hogan would have a very brief feud with different guys. Like he'd go from Big John Studd to King Kong Bundy to Paul Orndorff is an exception to the rule and Piper, but there was a point where he was going to like Kamala, King Kong Bundy, Big John Studd, and it would be like 6, 7 guys, and 9 months would go by, and you realize that every person he was feuding with, it was, you really didn't have the suspension of disbelief that he was going to lose, but these was just, who's going to be the person of the month, the flavor of the month to go up against Hulk Hogan. That's kind of what Gunther's reign is right now. All right, we burned through Bronson Reed. We burned through Chad Gable. For everyone out there that thought that Chad Gable, was going to have that magical moment, we brought up last week that he's like 3-15. Since that match. I mean, he's not winning matches, even though people want to perceive it that it is. Then you have Bronson Reed. Okay, we get through Bronson Reed. Now you go through this person. Now you go to The Miz. The Miz. Here's a little stat for everyone out there. The Miz, over his last, hold on, I got it right here. In 2023, The Miz has had 39 matches, as far as I could count, before tonight. How many wins do you think? He has some wins. I want to make that clear. How many wins do you think The Miz has in 2023? He's had 39 matches, approximately 39. How many matches? Chat room, all right. Michael Gonzalez says 7. Benjamin says 7. All right. Anybody else want to throw a shot at it? Vance says 6. Bordy says 5. The answer is 3. He's had 3 wins. And his 3 wins are against Tommaso Ciampa, Akira Tozawa, and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Yes, that is considered a win. The Miz is 3-36 in 2023. Now, do you see him going up against Gunther now? You cheer him on because people are showing respect for The Miz. The Miz has earned the respect from the fans. And, we know The Miz has no shot against Gunther. But when you start dissecting it a little bit, Ciampa had the match with Gunther. Remember, they were supposed to do it at a pay-per-view, and then it was supposed to be the following week. And then they decided, hey, let's just do it tonight. And then we'll bring Gargano back, and that's it. When you really dissect it, a lot of people that Gunther is feuding with are not getting elevated to the next level. The only reason why they feel like they're getting elevated is because they want people to give a shit a little bit about the match. They don't want indifference. That's, if you remember the Tegan Knox example, that's why Becky Lynch's first NXT championship title defense, it was supposed to be Tegan Knox, and then they went with Natalya. Why? Natalya still gets a reaction from the main crowd, the WWE Universe. Tegan Nox didn't. And if Becky comes out there and cuts a promo, the man is blah, 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 blah. The man is here. And who's going to be my first opponent? I challenge everyone out there. And then Tegan Nox's music hits. People will be sitting on their hands. So they waited 3 weeks and did a little bit to get the fans a little bit behind Tegan Nox. And Tegan Nox won over the fans a little bit. Today she's in a battle royal and nobody gives a shit. If anything, people are like, wait a minute. If I remember correctly, Tegan Nox was this big baby face, and Natty was being an asshole. Remember when Tegan Nox was going to get the opportunity and Natty got it instead, and then Natty lost, and then Tegan Nox was going to get her shot, and Natty says, you need to wait for your shot. And then Lyra Valkyria got involved, and this and that, and then Tegan Nox was going to take on, and then suddenly Tegan Nox starts acting like an asshole. And anybody remember? Tegan Nox was acting like a little bit of a bitch. And then she has two matches. And then today it's like, no, everything is good. And Natalia's giving people glasses like, hey, I was nice all along. At the end of the day, you realize Tegan Nox, that impression that she was being elevated is just so people give a shit a little bit about the match against Becky. For others, the same thing. The Miz is, I would think a Hall of Famer. And fans are starting to respect Miz now because the Miz is number one wrestling. Cares, eats, sleeps, shits wrestling, other than his wife and his family. But the Miz, people respect him now. And, that's why people are rooting for him against Gunther, but he's got no shot. He's got no shot. So let's get into some Raw results. Let's start bringing this together a little bit. And then we'll plug a little history stuff, and then we'll get out of here. But so now, as far as Survivor Series, now we have War Games. Would they possibly do 2? The Bloodline's got to be involved in this. So I hope they don't do 2 War Games matches. I really don't want to see that. And if you start doing, plus the whole idea of the Bloodline and the Judgment Day Alliance, you do War Games and the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. What was the purpose of that alliance? Now, next week is going to be really, really interesting because Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are getting that championship rematch. Now, remember, Jimmy Uso originally got involved, and that's what cost him the titles. Does Jimmy Uso show up next week? And if Jimmy Uso does show up next week, does that factor into the title decision, and does that lead into War Games? Remember, as of right now, Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis don't like each other. So as we talked about it over the weekend for the recap, in storyline, why would Nick Aldis allow one of his SmackDown stars to battle against other SmackDown stars, or vice versa? Or why would Adam Pearce be fine with bringing someone aboard to fight other Raw stars? You understand what I'm saying? Right now, Adam Pearce is like, you've 8 guys want to kill each other, go right ahead, because everybody is technically Raw, with the exception of of Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They are the tag champs of SmackDown also. The reason why the tag championships were put back on them was so they can go to SmackDown and interact there. But you have the Judgment Day and the Bloodline Alliance. How does this alliance sprout at Survivor Series and have it make sense when Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce is fine with having Raw and SmackDown guys on the same team? Think about that for a minute. Why would Adam Pearce be cool with Jimmy Uso teaming up with Judgment Day, or Solo Sikoa teaming up with Judgment Day? I just hope they're not thinking about doing 2 War Games matches, because you got Roman, and you got Jimmy, and you got Solo. Now you got to think, okay, who could be a 4th person? I don't think so. Is it possible that the Bloodline are not involved? Obviously, Jey Uso's not in the Bloodline anymore for the moment, but is it possible that Roman, Jimmy, and Solo do not compete at War Games? I think that's ridiculously stupid. So I think this Friday SmackDown is going to clear that up a little bit. But, the storyline that they did with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, it gets a little challenging. And listen, some people that did not check out yesterday's edition of the sit down, I was not bashing Nick Aldis at all. I was talking about the character and how stupid Nick Aldis looked in character for Crown Jewel. Because Nick Aldis is the one with not necessarily law and order, but Nick Aldis, is trying to oversee things and be authority, and he's not going to allow this, he's not going to tolerate this. But as I said yesterday, Nick Aldis, when Jimmy Uso came out and Solo Sikoa came out during the LA Knight Roman Reigns match, Nick Aldis suddenly was either FaceTiming his wife or he was out in the food truck buying some Indian food. Like, why didn't he come out there, with no interference? Where is Nick Aldis in storyline to say to Roman Reigns or the Bloodline, look, people are sick and tired of the Bloodline repeatedly getting involved and causing Roman Reigns to win. So I'm here, and we're not tolerating that, and you're banned from ringside. So WWE Creative is getting a little bit careless with this. If I pick up on it, and a lot of you pick up on it, that's a problem, because that means a lot of other people are picking up on it too. All right. Let's recap Raw a little bit. Seth Rollins opens up the show, and Seth Rollins comes to ringside, and, first he wants to thank Drew McIntyre for not joining the Judgment Day. Now, honestly, I like what they did with Drew Actually, you know what? Let's get Drew McIntyre out of the way first, because the Drew McIntyre segment explains why Drew McIntyre didn't come out there and just smash the glasses, just punch Seth with the glasses on and cut his eyes with those glasses. Because Seth Rollins comes out there, he wants to thank Drew McIntyre for not joining Judgment Day. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but how stupid does that sound by itself? There was no Judgment Day involvement. They could have gotten involved whether Seth liked it or if he didn't like it. And technically, Damian Priest did try to cash in, but Sami Zayn ruined that. But Seth Rollins wants to thank Drew McIntyre for not being part of Judgment Day, but he also wants to thank Sami Zayn. Seth really didn't need Sami Zayn's help, but Damian Priest almost cashed in, and Sami Zayn took it upon himself, to come out there, and he not only stopped Damian Priest, but he stole his briefcase. And as we said on the recap Saturday, they'll probably do something stupid where Adam Pearce says, give it back. Give it back. Think of the MJF storyline. In storyline, why didn't Tony Khan in storyline say to Jay White, give it back. Give it back. Tony Khan's busy tweeting. That's why. So he wants Sami Zayn to come out there so he could thank Sami Zayn in person. Now, the reason why Drew McIntyre didn't come out there is because earlier in the day, Jackie Redmond saw a vehicle pull up, and I guess, Drew McIntyre drives that kind of vehicle because Jackie Redmond's like, oh, I think that's him. I think that's him. So this SUV pulls up, and sure enough, it's Drew McIntyre in a vehicle. He comes out, and Jackie Redmond does kind of like the reverse of the Super Bowl. When they say in the Super Bowl, you just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next? I'm going to Disney World. No, she's like, you lost the crown jewel. Like, what's next? And he looks at her, and he's saying, you fucking dumb bitch. And he gets into his car, and he just pulls away. Nothing against Jackie Redmond. I'm just joking. He looks at her like, what are you, fucking stupid? I lost the crown jewel. What's next for Drew McIntyre? So he gets in his vehicle, he drives away. So now we all think Drew McIntyre is going to show up at the end of the night and lay out Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn and kind of cement himself being a heel. No, Drew McIntyre doesn't come back. So when Seth calls out, thanks Drew, Drew doesn't say anything because he's not there. he wants to thank Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn comes out there, and Sami Zayn is having a conversation with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins says that he could have handled his own business with Damian Priest, and he wanted to thank Sami Zayn for that. And Sami Zayn tells Seth Rollins, look, the reason why I did that is because the Judgment Day hold all the gold except for yours. And if Damian Priest would have successfully cashed in and won that championship, we would have had Bloodline 2.0. If you think of Sammy's promo last week, isn't it already Bloodline 2.0? But still, Sami thinks keeping the title away from Damian Priest prevents the Bloodline from, I don't know, I guess coming out with an extra belt. I mean, tell me what's different. Almost every week, the Judgment Day won, Monday Night War. That didn't happen tonight because Sami Zayn said, this is my show. So Seth Rollins says, people like Sami Zayn don't always get what they deserve. And Seth Rollins says the Judgment Day does not run Raw. He does. And he said that the Money in the Bank contract is not the only way you get a title shot. So Seth Rollins said that he made sure that if Adam Pearce was going to force Sami Zayn to give that briefcase back, he was going to give Sami Zayn a championship opportunity whenever he felt like it. So Seth Rollins is pretty much trying to lead Sami Zayn in storyline, like, look, whenever you want it. And Sami's like, wow, that caught me off guard. And, he's thinking about it. And meanwhile, Seth is basically saying to him, hey, you dumb bastard, I'm giving you an opportunity tonight. So Sami's like, look, I know you're not 100%. And Sami's like, are you 100%? When are we ever 100%? But when we go in that ring, we give 100%. So finally, the light bulb goes off in Sami Zayn, and Sami realizes, I get a championship shot tonight. So they shake hands, championship match tonight for the World Heavyweight title. Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn. That's what we have to look forward to a little bit later on. We get a little bit of a goofy segment with the Judgment Day. For some reason, JD McDonough is wearing a Damian Priest shirt. A little injury update. JD McDonough, as you saw, did not have a match tonight. Did a little bit of a beatdown towards the end to lead up to Survivor Series, the announcement by Adam Pearce. But I don't know if they posted an updated picture of that burn that he got at Crown Jewel, but that shit looked brutal 5 minutes into his match with Sami Zayn. But he is okay, but they're giving him a little bit of time to heal. But Damian Priest is a little bit annoyed, and Damian Priest is complaining that, about Sami Zayn stealing his briefcase and thus his title shot at Crown Jewel. And Sami's being rewarded with a title shot. Jada McDonough, who's wearing a Damian Priest shirt, says that, hey, things didn't go your way at Crown Jewel. And basically, Sami Zayn, if this was AEW, probably would have legitimately said, no shit, Sherlock. But he's like, hey, look at this tough guy. And then he looks and sees that JD's wearing the Damian Priest shirt. And he's like, did you buy that shirt? Did you buy that shirt? And then I guess beating up the New Day makes everything right again. That was kind of funny. Damian Priest says to Finn Balor, come on, let's go take care of the New Day. We'll make things right again. Because the New Day just fucked up Monday night. Whoa. So we get the New Day taking on the Judgment Day. And it was a fun match. I mean, look, the New Day, their peak has come and gone. They are not at the moment in title contention, even though WWE wants you to think that they are. This was a decent match, but in the end, you have Damian Priest hitting the South of Heaven. You have Finn Balor hitting the coup de grace. And, something you don't see that often. Finn Balor getting a substantial pin. Xavier Woods getting pinned pretty substantial. I mean, this was not a one-sided match, but the end seemed very one-sided. But Damian Priest and Finn Balor get the win on the New Day. So the next match that we had was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Akira Tozawa. And I still think about last week. Remember right after Raw, we were having fun that there was some morons online saying, I think these two guys could have a banger next week. Tozawa got a little bit of offense in today, but this match, if you went to the bathroom and, you kind of washed your hands, but there wasn't a towel, so you had to go in another room and get a towel and then dry your hands. If you took that extra step to dry your hands, the match was over. The match like this, so Shinsuke Nakamura with the Kinshasa. After the match is over, Otis hits the ring, takes his shirt off. Oh, yeah! He wants to go at it with Nakamura. Next week, we get Nakamura versus Otis. If this leads to a Chad Gable-Nakamura match, maybe even for the kickoff show at Survivor Series, I'm cool with that. I think Chad Gable and Nakamura could put on a banger. For those out there that are wondering if Nakamura and Otis ever faced each other, yes, they did. I remember clearly when they were doing Thunderdome, there was if you watch the match, you'll see it. Otis took on Nakamura. I think Cesaro was in the corner of Nakamura and Chad Gable was in the corner of Otis. This was 2020, I think it is. And if you look, you'll see Deli Man, with the salami hanging out in the back. But I do remember that match. Otis and Nakamura actually had a couple of good matches. And now, a couple of years later, and the roles reversed because Otis was kind of playing a heel at the time. Nakamura, more of a baby face. So this match, I think, is going to be a little bit better than people think it's going to be next week. So, but look, tomorrow, Tozawa is taking on Noam Dar for the Heritage Cup. So they want you to think that Tozawa could at least last 45 seconds. I don't have nothing against Tozawa, but, when Tozawa loses as much as he does, the lovable loser, it's very hard to suddenly think, or take him serious. And that's not a knock on Tozawa, but, to me, he's like the Japanese version of R-Truth. To me, I put him and R-Truth in the same boat. But the difference is R-Truth is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. R-Truth has had a Hall of Fame career. Akira Tozawa, you say to yourself, my God, God bless him that he has survived all of these releases. He's not a bad wrestler, but he's not utilized to have banger of a match. When was the last time Akira Tozawa truly had a banger? You really can't think of one because that's not how Tozawa was with Nia Jax and Tamina Snuka and Dana Brooke and the 24/7 title and all the other garbage that we're not even thinking about right now. That's Tozawa for the last 4 or 5 years. So to suddenly think that, if he would have remained just in NXT, then maybe, Tozawa could show something that maybe people forgot that he had. But tomorrow, Alpha Academy is going to be there. And the only reason why Alpha Academy is going to be there is because they're going to set up a match against the Metaphor. Don't know if it's going to happen in NXT. It could end up being a dark match or main event match for WWE. But they're going to set up Metaphor versus Alpha Academy in the near future. So Alpha Academy will be on NXT tomorrow for those that are interested. But as I said, Shinsuke Nakamura with the pin on Akira Tozawa. Adam Pearce is in the back with Seth Rollins. Are you sure that you want to have this match tonight? Seth Rollins is sure. Nothing really came out of that. Then we get the four-way. Ricochet versus The Miz versus Ivar versus Bronson Reed. The fans wanted to see Bronson Reed and Ivar go at it. Two giants, that is always a special attraction. They had their moments, and the crowd ate it up. Interesting enough, the crowd was more into The Miz than Ricochet. And that puts a smile on my face because a lot of you know that have been with me for a very long time know my support of The Miz. I, always liked The Miz. Had the opportunity to meet him twice. One time, when they were doing the Tough Enough stuff. By the way, thank you everyone who loved the Maven Invader stuff yesterday. I was going to put it on today, but I didn't have time to fix the sound card. I played it back. The audio only has the sound perfect, but for some reason through the video, like the bullets and all the other stuff, the sound didn't come through all that well. But yeah, I can't believe it still works after 21, 22 years. I created a video game in 2002 because I hated Maven. So I wanted to blow up Mavens. So I created Space Invaders. Instead of the aliens, there were heads of Maven. And all you do is just blow up Maven. And if I didn't hack the game. If I hacked the game, I would have had 99 lives and just blow up Maven for 9 hours. But so The Miz is over. And even Michael Cole is acknowledging, I wonder how The Miz, is reacting to this because The Miz is not used to this. Now, let's make it clear. The Miz, back in the day, had some moments as a babyface. Not very long. But The Miz has had his moments. The difference now is that The Miz has earned the respect. It's not on the level of a John Cena, but John Cena was very much, the fans were very dismayed of John Cena for many, 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 many years. And I think the turning point for John Cena was when he was the Intercontinental Champion and he did the open challenges. Remember when Kevin Owens made his Raw debut and stepped on the United States title. He stepped on the United States title. Sami Zayn got an opportunity at that time. You saw John Cena going off the top rope, doing moves that you never even saw him ever do in the WWE. And people saw how hard John Cena was working at that time. The feud with AJ Styles. Honestly, if I would have said to you that one of AJ Styles' greatest feuds in his career was against John Cena, I think people would be like, maybe a watered down AJ Styles. They really had some great matches together. But, The Miz is at that point now where he's put in so many years and put in so much work and cares and eats, sleeps, shits wrestling and, never embarrasses wrestling. Fans are now starting to acknowledge that and appreciate it. And yes, it's Gunther. Let's see how long The Miz is a babyface after Gunther. But for the time being, it must be good for The Miz to know that you don't have that constant baggage. I'm sure he doesn't give a shit at this point, but it's still a cool thing to see. And sure enough, today The Miz gets the win. Now, we really didn't have controversy, but it felt like controversy because the finish was a little bit sloppy. I have a little screenshot. I'll describe it for those that are on audio only. Mr. Bean was the referee. Mr. Bean, that guy that looks like Mr. Bean. What happened was Ricochet had super kicked Ivar, knocked him out of the ring. That allowed Ricochet and The Miz to go at it for a little while, and The Miz and Ricochet kicked each other, and they both went down. So on one side of the ring, on Ricochet's side of the ring, Ivar is creeping up against the apron from the floor. On the opposite side of the ring, Bronson Reed is creeping up from the floor. And then Ivar and Bronson Reed lock eyes on each other, and they both see a fallen Ricochet and a fallen Miz, so they decide they're both going to climb the top rope. And Ivar is going to do a splash over the top rope. Bronson Reed is going to do a splash onto Miz from the top rope. Ivar's like, oh yeah, I'll do one better. Ivar turns around, and he decides he's going to do a moonsault. Bronson Reed decides he's going to do the tsunami. The difference is Ivar connected. And when you think about it, why did Ricochet kick out of that? I don't think anybody should kick out of Ivar's moonsault. I just thought about that. But Ivar lands the moonsault. For Bronson Reed, though, no water in the pool. So what ends up happening is, as you see on the right, you get Ivar pinning Ricochet, and you have Bronson Reed getting pinned by The Miz at the same time. Because it's a fatal four-way, anybody could be pinned. There is no legal man in the ring. So Mr. Bean is looking at both pins back and forth, and he goes 1, and he goes 2. And then suddenly Ricochet turns his shoulder. He looks back at The Miz, and Bronson Reed's shoulders, both of them are still on the mat. So he counts to 3. The Miz gets the win. It was a little wonky on TV, but the replay made it look a whole lot, smoother. I mean, it made sense. But after the match is over, for some reason, Ivar is not mad at Ricochet for kicking out. He's not mad at Bronson Reed for getting pinned. He's mad at The Miz. So he decides he's going to beat the shit out of The Miz and splashes him, leaves him laying. The crowd is booing the fuck out of Ivar, and they're chanting, "You suck, you suck." So next week, we have Ivar versus The Miz. The Miz is now strengthened himself as a babyface going up against Gunther at Survivor Series. Gunther in the back loving all of this. He's loving that everybody's beating the shit out of each other. But how are you going to feel next week if The Miz pins Ivar? Remember the conversation we said earlier about perception and smoke and mirrors. When we started building up stats for Ivar, you're not going to see this big winning record a month or two from now. A month or two from now, we're going to look back at Ivar, and maybe with the exception of maybe a half a dozen wins against Akira Tozawa, who do you think Ivar is going to prevail against? Seriously. Though, something to think about. Let's see a month or two from now where they are in the food chain. So after the match is over, we see Alpha Academy in the back, and, they're talking about Tozawa's loss. Maxine Dupree is excited. She's going to be in the Battle Royal, and, she hopes that she could get the opportunity and become the women's champion at Survivor Series. So now we get the tag match that we talked about earlier. The Creed brothers signing a contract, officially a part of Monday Night Raw. And the DIY are taking on the Creed brothers today. Excellent match, as I said earlier. Towards the end of the match, Giovanni Vinci is absent. He worked main event. I think he lost to Apollo Crews on main event tonight. I have to double check it. I'm pretty sure he lost to Apollo Crews. But Giovanni Vinci off of Raw tonight, doing main event. Ludwig Kaiser there by himself. As Gargano is getting the upper hand on Julius Creed, here comes Ludwig Kaiser with a cheap shot. And he nails Gargano, backs off. I think the Creed brothers in storyline did not see Kaiser doing what he's doing, and I predict we're going to get Imperium versus the Creed brothers. And look, 2 weeks in a row, Creed brothers get the win. Now, you have Kaiser and Vinci team up again. You could see it already. Brutus Ball to Vinci, and Imperium is going to lose to the Creed brothers. So the Creed brothers could be undefeated going into Survivor Series. So Kaiser gets involved, nails Gargano. That allows the Creed brothers to get the upper hand. They do their finisher, hit the Brutus Ball on Johnny Gargano, and sure enough, your winners, the Creed brothers. Johnny Gargano was pinned, DIY already suffering a loss. So, not a bad match. We see a segment in the back. Sami Zayn is looking at a video of him losing his title opportunity to Roman Reigns thanks to the bloodline. Jey Uso was a part of that. Jey Uso shows up, awkward. And, Sam is like, Jey Uso's like, hey, that was different times back then, Us. And Sammy's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So Sammy's hyping up, Jay's hyping up Sammy. Tonight, you're going to become world heavyweight champion. Next week, me and Cody Rhodes, we're going to regain the undisputed tag team championships. And by next week, We may all have the gold. Maybe not. But hyping up Sami Zayn a little bit. We already talked about it. The Women's Battle Royal. Becky Lynch does an interview in the back. She's interrupted by Nia Jax. Nia Jax is reminding Becky Lynch that the last time that she saw her, that she left her bloody. And Becky Lynch says, yeah, I went on to main event WrestleMania and you got fired. It was kind of a lot of time in between of those two events, but still they're jaw-jacking with each other. Then right after that, we have Zoey Stark and Shayna Baszler, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. They're going at it in the back. Then they both realize, hey, it's what every person for themselves out there. So maybe Piper and Chelsea could battle each other. Maybe Shayna and Zoey could battle each other. I don't recall seeing Piper and Chelsea going at it, but we definitely did see Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark going at it. So when Becky Lynch comes out for the Battle Royal, here comes Xia Li, attacks her, leaves a lane, gives her a kick to the head. Adam Pearce is like, what the fuck are you doing? And she points to the ring. Stupid. It's storyline. Stupid. You're not in a match. Why didn't you ask earlier? She's pointing to the ring like, oh, no, I go to ring. No, you don't. You go to back. And Adam Pearce is pointing to the back. Get in the back. You ain't get, after what you did, you think you're going to be in this match? And Xia Li with that little smug look when a little kid is in timeout. Go to your room. Ma, can I at least get something to drink? You know, can I get a soda? No. Ugh. And you just like pout as you go to your room. That's what Xia Li looked like when she went to the back. So we get the Battle Royal. And the order of elimination, yes, I took the time to get the eliminations. Nikki Cross, as I showed you earlier, a little bit too much on the chamomile tea. She gets eliminated by Nia Jax and Raquel Rodriguez. Tegan Knox and Maxine Dupree both eliminate Piper Niven rather early, but then Nia Jax immediately eliminates Maxine. Maxine a little too cocky. Oh, thank you! And got ejected. Ivy Nile eliminated Kaden Carter. A little bit later on, you know, you can do that when the other person is 91 pounds, but still, I am a huge fan of Ivy Nile. Anybody that tunes into Wednesday Night Dynamite knows that already. She is awesome, and she impressed in this match. She eliminated Kaden Carter. She press slammed Katana Chance and eliminated her over the top rope. Raquel, and that got a nice little pop because the crowd was pretty much dead for all of this. And I think once Raquel Rodriguez got eliminated, the air was out of the balloon. Nia Jax, they cheered when she got eliminated too, but once Raquel Rodriguez got eliminated, and then you realize it was Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark. I was rooting for Shayna. Shayna and Rhea Ripley was a match that we thought was going to happen on a pay-per-view, if you remember. Right after the Ronda Rousey stuff, we thought Shayna Baszler was going to get pushed to the top. Remember that? She took on Ronda. Ronda left. And then Shayna, nothing. Very, very little. Suddenly she's with Zoey Stark. And I'm like, why? The tag team division sucks. Let her run on her own. So Raquel Rodriguez eliminates Chelsea Green. A lot of goofy comedy with this one. You know, because Chelsea Green slaps Natty. She slaps Raquel Rodriguez, and then she turns the other way. I guess she thought that Raquel was going to just look the other way and act like, so she grabs her by the hair, and Chelsea Green with that look like a goldfish, and Raquel Rodriguez eliminates her. Natty eliminates Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell went to kick Natty in the corner. Natty moved out of the way, so she kicked the corner post. That honestly looked like it hurt. Something I got to say about Indy Hartwell, but not tonight. I don't want to upset anybody, and I like Indy Hartwell, but something I noticed tonight. I have to get a photo, and I'll show you on an upcoming episode. I'll just show you the photo. I won't say a word, and you can figure it out. So now Ivy Nile eliminates Natty right after Natty eliminated Indy Hartwell. So we're down to Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Raquel Rodriguez, Zoey Stark, Tegan Nox, and Ivy Nile. Ivy goes to pick up Nia Jax. Crowd got into it a little bit, but she was unable to do so. And Raquel, Zoey Stark, and Shayna Baszler all eliminated Nia Jax. And this is what I hated the whole thing other than Zoey Stark winning. No shit, there's no DQ in a battle royal. But I hate it when someone's eliminated and they could still eliminate other people. I think once you're eliminated, you are no longer a factor in the match. And Ivy Nile is standing on the apron. Nia Jax gets eliminated. And she looks at Ivy Nile and she's like, oh, yeah. And she just pulls her legs from underneath her and Ivy Nile falls to the floor and she's eliminated. If you're going to really go that route, anybody that gets eliminated might as well just stay at why wouldn't you just stay at ringside and do everything you possibly can to eliminate the person that just eliminated you? Why would you walk to the back? Why would you walk to the back? Nia is like, fuck it. She just eliminates Ivy Nile and it's okay. I hated that. Because even somebody who's in a vegetative state in the hospital would turn around and say, that makes no sense. So now we're down to Raquel, Zoey, and Shayna. And next thing you know, before you know it, Raquel Rodriguez is eliminated by Zoey Stark and Shayna Baszler. So now you're down to the tag team. And they're battling on the apron. Shayna locks on the Kirifuda clutch, but she realizes when she locks it on, she can't hold on to the ropes. So Zoey could have eliminated her. That made sense. So she breaks the hold, and then Zoey super kicks Shayna in the mouth twice. And Shayna said something like, that's all you got, bitch? They tried to censor it. They couldn't. And then the next thing you know, Zoey Stark hits a DDT. Shayna's eliminated. Zoey wins. And remember what I said earlier. We don't need to say anything else from that. All right. Right after this, Jackie Redmond is interviewing Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is then interrupted by Zoey Stark. And then, as I said earlier, we get the Zoey Stark, saying to Rhea Ripley, at Crown Jewel, I hit you with the Z360. And if it wasn't for others involved in the match, I would be women's world champion right now. And I'm not going to lie, Rhea Ripley's response was kind of lame. When Rhea's like, I got a lot on my plate. I'm a little sick and tired of her saying that. She said that at least a half a dozen times this year. Zoey Stark is pumped up. I should be world champion. I got a lot on my plate. It's just her response was kind of awful. It didn't feel like Rhea Ripley was angry. It didn't feel like, intimidating. Rhea Ripley, you could change your makeup, change your hairstyle, have 95 Arabs around the ringside area with green DX lighting, holding urns or whatever it is. And she was impressive as fuck at Crown Jewel. Today, that confrontation with Zoey Stark was the opposite. It was the opposite of the Rhea Ripley at Crown Jewel. I didn't like it at all. And I'm a fan of Zoey Stark. She's going to get eaten up and spit out. In fact, you know what? When a dog throws up and then the dog eats their own throw up and then either they throw up again or they end up shitting out the throw up? That's what's going to happen to Zoey Stark in in Chicago, excuse me. They're going to eat her up like a dog, and then they're going to spit her out, and then they're going to eat her up again, and then they're going to shit her out. She's going to get booed. I'll be shocked to shit if Chicago doesn't boo her out of the building. I mean, what is Rhea Ripley going to do? Is she going to get on the mic and troll Chicago to get that extra heel heat? I mean, Chicago's going to think she's a badass. By the way, speaking of Chicago, I'd be angry if we didn't mention this tonight. We got some CM Punk chants tonight. And look, we talk AEW on Wednesdays. I don't want to really bring up AEW now. But, it just shows you the difference in environment with AEW and WWE. Now, WWE is not, like the golden goose or innocent or everything is epic, amazing, unbelievable. That's not what I'm saying. But you could see the difference. The fans tonight chanting CM Punk during the Nakamura-Tozawa match, not because they're trolling Nakamura and Tozawa. They want CM Punk back. And as we get closer to Survivor Series, because there's a lot of people trying to tease people online that he's going to be there, have you seen all the ridiculously asinine CM Punk news over the weekend? Told you a month ago that shit was going to happen. As we get closer to Survivor Series, suddenly all these journalists, my sources tell me this, they're supposed to talk, they're supposed to do this. You don't know nothing. It's just that they're getting close to Survivor Series, and it gets near Chicago. We're getting the same fucking shit that we got with Mercedes Moné. And you know what's going to happen? The same exact thing that happened at AEW Mercedes Moné. He's not going to be there. But the fans still are getting a little excited. They're chanting CM Punk tonight. But you see, when it comes to CM Punk and AEW, you got half a fan base that are trying to make him look like the biggest cancer in wrestling. For the WWE Universe that are chanting his name, they just want a good wrestler and an even better promo cutter. And, maybe for some AEW haters out there, giving the finger, figuratively by showing up in WWE and kicking ass and not causing a problem. People seem excited if CM Punk were to show. In AEW, people were doing everything they possibly could to ruin it. They did everything possible to kill the ratings, kill the momentum, kill the crowds. People were spiking the football. That's why Jungle Boy could come back as the devil. He could come back in critical condition. I don't give a shit, because that guy was the first part of the night in front of history. 81,035 tickets sold, regardless of how many people that showed. And first thing you do is, instead of just taking in like, holy shit, look at this, I'm part of history, I'm opening up history. Couldn't fucking wait to break glass. That is not even a boy. That is a fucking immature child. And you could have him come back as the Joker. You could come back as the devil. You could have him come back as a woman. You could have him come back in a vegetative state. Let him come back like Nikki. I don't care. I don't care. I have no interest in it whatsoever. But you see the difference. People are not trolling WWE right now with the CM Punk chants. They want him back. Will he come back? That's a whole nother story. All right. So now we get to the main event. Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Match got about 20 minutes. Between the introductions and a commercial break, that ate up about 5 minutes of time. This was a really good match. Unfortunately, when we do ratings next Wednesday, we will realize that it'll be probably at the bottom of the ratings pool, because by the third hour, notoriously, the ratings just drop. We get it. Money is made on the third hour, even though the third hour's ratings are, not anywhere near as good. Remember, last week, Natty and Chelsea Green in that Trick or Street fight did less than 1,200,000 viewers for Raw. That is pathetic. So you say to yourself, if Raw was only 2 hours, the ratings would appear so much different. You don't have to factor in that third hour anymore. But because some money is made and some profit is made, that third hour is going to stay. This, by the third hour, people are tired of it. And people expected Judgment Day interference. People may have expected Drew McIntyre interference. We got a clean match. We got a really good match. We got a finish without interference. Unfortunately, when you do this for months and months and months, back then the bloodline interfering with everything, then the Judgment Day interfering with everything. You're always looking in the back of your head like, okay, when is the person going to come out? When is this person going to come out? When is this person going to interfere? That kind of sucks. I mean, why not just in storyline with Adam Pearce, everybody is banned from ringside? It's going to be Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, no interference. If anybody interferes in this match, they are suspended. At least the fans going into this main event knows we're not getting a clusterfuck finish. Tonight was a weird night because 90% of you out there, including me, expected a clusterfuck finish, whether it was Drew causing the outcome or the Judgment Day. And on a night where we all expected it doesn't happen. And what ends up happening towards the end of the match, Sami Zayn getting a little bit of the upper hand. There's a little screenshot of them early on. And great back and forth match. Sami Zayn towards the end. And let me also mention that Sami Zayn was over big in this match. Seth Rollins, they cheered him too. But Sami, they were that much more into. And he really was overwhelming over with the crowd. Towards the end of the match, he hits the Blue Thunder Bomb, which got him the victory on JD McDonough over the weekend. He goes for the haluva kick, but Seth Rollins turns it into a super kick, and a pedigree, only gets a 2 count. Sami ends up getting the upper hand once again, locks on the Lion Tamer, turns it into a Boston Crab, and then out of nowhere, with Sami with the Boston Crab, Seth Rollins reverses it and rolls up Sami Zayn for the win. Just like that, came out of nowhere. I mean, we had a feeling because it was 10:54, but Sami Zayn looking a little bit dejected in his defeat, but classy guy lifts up Seth Rollins. Hey, Seth won fair and square. Then we get the tease for War Games, at least a partial tease for War Games. Right after the match is over, the Judgment Day come out, and they're beating the crap out of Seth Rollins. They're beating the crap out of Sami Zayn. And then here comes Jey Uso's music. Jey Uso comes out there. He's getting up. Sorry, I don't have the graded screenshots. We went live literally 3.5 minutes after Raw ended. But Jey Uso comes out there. He gets involved. Cody Rhodes' music comes out there. He gets involved. We have a flat-out war going on. And then Adam Pearce, for all of these fucking months, with all this interference, Adam Pearce never came out there at the end of the night. Was always absent. But because we got War Games coming up, Adam Pearce, you would have thought somebody kicked his mother. He was yelling, screaming, angry. I'm sick of this. You guys want to fight? You think this is a game? I'll give you a game. War Games. I mean, you would have thought he was constipated, hadn't taken a shit in a week. Suddenly, beyond angry. If there was ever a night he truly needed a drink, tonight's the night. But we have Survivor Series War Games. So once they announce War Games, these guys start brawling even more. Cody does a dive onto everybody, takes them out like bowling pins, and we go off the air with chaos. So at least we know now some of the participants for War Games. I hope it's not 4-on-4, because if that happens, I fear we may get 2 sets of War Games, and I don't think anybody wants that, especially the storyline of the Judgment Day and the Bloodline alliance. That alliance has to be an alliance at some point. Survivor Series, should be the moment. You're not going to do it at Elimination Chamber. You're not going to do it at the Royal Rumble. Survivor Series makes the most sense. Let's see over the next 7 days, between this Friday SmackDown and next Monday's Raw, how they further put it together. So next week, matches announced. Tegan Knox, for some reason with Natty in a corner, taking on Piper Niven. Also next week, we have Otis, as we said earlier, taking on Shinsuke Nakamura. We have The Miz taking on Ivar. And once again, for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships, Finn Balor and Damian Priest will be defending the titles against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. Now remember, By December, Damian Priest and Finn Balor will no longer be undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. Will they lose it next week? Will they lose it after Survivor Series? Remember, the reason why they are the tag champs, again, from Cody and Jay, is because that allows them to show up on SmackDown. If they're not the tag champs, they're not SmackDown stars. How do you continue the Bloodline Judgment Day alliance unless they're allowed on SmackDown? Why would Adam Pearce allow them to go on SmackDown and form an alliance to beat up on Raw stars? Makes no sense, right? But when Finn and Damian are champs for both brands, they are technically neutral. Adam Pearce can't say a damn thing about it. Neither can Nick Aldis. So we will see what happens. And yeah, as Bobby's saying, and a few of you said earlier, Randy Orton is obviously the wild card here. I think the only way Randy Orton gets involved in a positive way as a babyface is if there is a fifth man. And like I said, maybe the scenario where Drew McIntyre, they want Drew to be the fifth man and Drew walks out and they have no fifth man. And you know, Cody Rhodes, storyline-wise, we'll go at it anyway. 4 of us versus the 5 of them. They could do that. And then maybe Randy Orton shows up. You're not going to have Randy be a, like instant replacement. He can't be a spare tire that if your tire goes flat, oh, I got a spare in the trunk. If Drew walks out at Survivor Series, you can't just happen to have, oh, look, Randy Orton happened to be in the back and he happened to be in gear and he was all oiled up. Can't do that. You have to set up something prior to the night of Survivor Series. Unless Randy shows up after War Games, RKO's Cody Rhodes, and we get a little Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes feud into the Christmas time. It's possible. It's possible. All right. Before we wrap it up, this will be quick. We got a couple of audio clips, and I promise you these are little treats. They're only about a minute or two each. And just to plug this week in wrestling history. And before I show you any pictorial previews, I got to give you one with John Cena and Rey Mysterio. 20-year anniversary. A lot of you probably never heard it. WWE obviously would never repeat it for various reasons, which you will hear. But if you would like, 20 years ago this week, might even be 20 years ago tonight, John Cena and Rey Mysterio were feuding with each other. And that is Rey Mysterio's reaction that night of John Cena saying this.
The chances of John Cena losing to Rey Mysterio. That's like Big Show at a buffet ordering one Cheerio. I'm a box office smash. I'm reloaded like the Matrix. How am I gonna lose to a midget dominatrix? Dude. Hey, you can say you're a grown man. I just don't believe you. You're a baby. I don't know whether to spank you or breastfeed you. Yo, forget the 619. 911 is your slogan. I'm about to put a whipping on the Mexican Gary Coleman.
What you talking about, Willis?
No. Yo. For real though, the mask is kind of cute and the entrance is crazy slick. But we don't see eye to eye, Ray, because your head's at my...
Yeah, we kind of missed that old John Cena. Pretty wild, man, right? Pretty wild. All right, so I have some... This week is a pretty strange week. If I showed you this, how would you react to it? The funny thing is, Dustin Rhodes Goldust was not dressed in blackface that night. He actually was reversing, I guess, his colors. But yeah, that happened this week in history. We will cover that. We will definitely cover that. Unfortunately, there's some, sad things that happened this week in history and some, controversial ones. Survivor Series, the Montreal Screwjob is coming up. And that's obviously the 26-year anniversary of that. We also, unfortunately, Eddie Guerrero, this week in history was the last match that he had. Macho Man made his TNA debut, which we will definitely got a little audio clip in a moment. There you can see Dustin once again. Vince McMahon and Arnold Schwarzenegger on Raw. We continue. Look, Dustin Rhodes debuting as 7. Wait, that looks better. Debuting as 7. You see Kevin Nash acting like the Grand Wizard on Nitro. Look at the fat, oily guy. Anybody remember the fat, oily guy? Chris Jericho with, oh my God. What was his name? Holy shit. Security. Damn, what was his name? Oh my God, someone in the chat room bail me out. It's late. Oh God, I used to love him doing security. Chris Jericho's sidekick in WCW. Rufus. Ralphus. Thank you, Will. Rufus R. Jones. We had the maniacal Vince McMahon. That was pretty wild. Look at AJ Styles' infamous match in Japan. Kevin Federline having a match, and who could ever forget the Big Show's father's funeral? Big Boss Man riding away with Big Show's father's casket. And him, that was fucking funny, man. Big Show riding it like a surfboard. And you want to see something wild? And look, man, I was going to censor it out, but this is from a newspaper. If you want to know the story behind this, you have to tune into the history episode. But, we've heard some crazy stories about Jerry the King Lawler back in the day. How many of you out there ever heard about this story? About Jerry Lawler being accused of assault on, we're not going to say the age of the person, but that was a legitimate story. He was found not guilty, and the kid lied, but there is a whole controversial thing about it involving like 4 fans in a hotel. It's a really strange story. That's probably one that a lot of you have never heard of before. And if you look, there is the Don Tony sign when CNN covered Death Grip. That was pretty wild. But speaking of that, let me quickly, I want to show you this. I want to play this for you. 99% of you out there probably do not remember the hit job that CNN did to John Cena at that time. When Death Grip aired, they aired an interview they did with John Cena. And what they did was they took a 3-minute interview that he did, and they edited it down to about 30 seconds. But what was even worse about it is it's not like they just took 5 or 6 sentences from the interview and played that. They took a couple of sentences, they edited out a few others, and then they spliced in others to make it seem like one full statement. And this was fucked up at the time. Fucked up. You think I'm exaggerating? I want to play you first the edited version. This is what we heard and saw on CNN. Listen close. Listen close.
John Cena is a WWE superstar, now recovering from an injury in the ring. He doesn't like being asked if he has used steroids.
This is a crazy question, and it's something that it's tough to answer just because of the way society is now, the way people conceive things, because performance-enhancing drugs have got the spotlight, and it's a hot thing to talk about. I can't tell you that I haven't, but you'll never be able to prove that I have.
Okay. You heard that? It's a touchy subject. He doesn't want to talk about it. You can't prove if he has, and you can't prove if he hasn't. That's the response. What if I told you, if they actually asked him, did you ever take steroids? And he said no. Listen to the unedited version. I am shocked to this day John Cena did not sue CNN. Not too many people have this unedited version. Hang on. Okay, here we go. The unedited version.
A lot of talk about steroid use, drug use. Have you ever used steroids?
Absolutely not. And this is
back in bodybuilding days, football days.
This is a crazy question, and it's something that it's tough to answer just because of the way society is now, the way people conceive things, because performance-enhancing drugs have got the spotlight, and it's a hot thing to talk about. Anytime you see any athlete in any athletic venture, it could be the PGA Tour, achieve physical greatness, something that is beyond the norm, even for a top-tier athlete. If top-tier athletes are rushing for 1,000 yards and somebody comes out and starts running people over and rushing for 2,000, it's not athletic achievement anymore, and that's something that really gets me. It's he or she is on performance-enhancing drugs, and it's only because that certain athletes have gotten themselves into certain situations where automatically the finger is pointed at somebody. Oh, they're on performance-enhancing drugs. My answer to that question, have you ever used steroids, is the only thing I can say. I can't tell you that I haven't, but you'll never be able to prove that I have. Because each one of you out there has an opinion on how I carry myself. And I can take 1,000,000 tests. I've been tested for drugs since I've been 17 years old. I can take 1,000,000 tests. I can pass every one of them. As soon as I pass it, there's some other guy on the other end going, oh, there's masking agents, there's this, there's that. I know the arguments because I've been in a situation. This is a subject that's very, very near and dear to me, only because since I was a very small child, I've worked my ass off to get to where I'm at. And it sucks to be able to have to deal with people saying that I rely on a crutch. You know, I wake up every day and I work myself to the bone because I love what I do. I got the best gig in the world. I love it. And it kills me to have to sit here and do this with one arm. Like, I want to be back out there. You hear stories about guys coming home from the war and they're in the infirmary and all they want to do is get back in the field. I want to get back in the field. You know, it's killing me. But to have to deal with the popularity of a substance that enhances performance it's tough to take. I take great pride in the fact that I have a God-given gift of above average natural strength, and I show it off whenever I can, because to me that's fun, that's entertaining, it's what I love to do.
How fucked up is that? You know what's cool? We're bringing back Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show archives. Kevin and I covered this at the time it happened. I fucking hated CNN. And after I heard that and somebody sent me the unedited version, I was blown away. You listen to those back-to-back again. How did John Cena not sue CNN? He would have been awarded millions. Easily. That is fucked up. Fucked up. All right. I think that's from 2006 or 7. So 2007, I believe. 2007. All right. Got something else for you. Macho Man Randy Savage made his TNA debut this week in history. It's only a minute and a half long. But the only reason why I'm playing it more than anything is I'm noticing a pattern that whenever we bring up highlights with TNA history, for some reason, Jeff Jarrett is always in the middle of it, and there's always a clusterfuck finish. I mean, I do remember clusterfuck happening. I don't remember it happening this often and always involving Jeff Jarrett. Here's a little sample of what I'm talking about.
Oh no, here's the stroke for Garza by Jarrett. Here's the edge. Look out! Cole's got Shark Boy up and drops him out of the edge. And Sanjay, on the receiving end of the jackknife powerbomb. Again, all three come in, the kings of wrestling, and make sure that they get the final point across. They threatened that they were going to take over TNA, and they've lived up to their words. They've lived up to those threats. The kings of wrestling are in control in TNA. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute.
What a horrible intro.
We're going to put up with it. The charismatic and England Jeff Hardy push them around.
All right, hurry up.
Hardy and Styles. It looks like they're going to answer the challenge of the Kings of Wrestling. Wait a minute. They're pointing back towards the entrance. Could it be?
Yes!
I think we know who was in limo number 3.
Absolutely! The Macho Man, Randy Savage!
Randy Savage leading the charge. Hardy and Styles along with him. The Macho Man on his way to the ring. And the Kings of Wrestling are backpedaling.
Oh, wait a minute! Savage has got Jared. Look at this! Got him out of there and just levels them!
Don West was so into that shit.
The Macho Man, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. They're on their feet. Rita Pexon's rocking.
I'm telling ya! All 6 guys, tag team match from hell, turning point. Ooh, yeah!
Oh my God! Get ready for that! The Macho Man says all 6 involved.
All right, that's enough. Man, did that turn out horrible, man. I mean, look, we wanted to enjoy Macho Man's appearance in TNA. It is awful. He couldn't move. He couldn't do anything. And that turning point match, it's just, if you've never seen it, watch it and you'll be kind of blown away. You know, like you could kind of like say to yourself, you know, if you replace Macho Man, this kind of feels like the same thing they do with Sting in AEW, but at least Sting could still move. This was kind of sad. And what was bad about it too is, you know, I'm surprised Macho Man didn't realize that he couldn't move. It wasn't that he couldn't move like he used to. He just couldn't move. It was bad, really bad. By the way, this week in history, Kevin Nash quit TNA. And the funny thing about it is when he quit TNA, he cut this promo, and we thought it was storyline at the time, and it was more real than any of us expected at that time. I can't wait to bring this back to hear how Kevin and I covered this back in the day. But if you forgot about this is Kevin Nash's promo. Quitting TNA.
You know, it's almost a perfect fit for me. I mean, my whole career, it's really been about money.
I got to say one other thing. When he bashes TNA, it's kind of weird to hear the crowd like popping for it. You'll know what I'm talking about. Check this out.
I mean, I really haven't cared about anybody else. Hell, I didn't care if somebody starved. I really didn't care if somebody lost the roof over the top of them. I mean, I took as much as I could. But a funny thing happened on the way to getting here. As I got older, I got wiser. You know, the Bible says that gray hair is a sign of wisdom. With wisdom came compassion. Those guys in the back that I would have took every dollar from in the past, they're my friends. They're my family. So this time, I'm going to pass on the money.
Why are they cheering that?
I want nothing to do with you guys. If you guys want to run this company to ground, you can do it without me.
They're cheering and he really left. He really left. I got one more for you. And then we'll wrap it up. I got a picture of Dolph Ziggler enjoying some bologna sandwiches. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Also this week in history, 2009. Who remembers this promo from Dixie Carter?
Since I was named president 6 years ago, I've had a lot of people telling me how to run a wrestling company. And while I appreciate their contributions, it's time for a change. We've had a lot of great things going on in this company. We've made a lot of changes in the last few months that I'm sure you've seen, and we made a bigger change even last week. I can assure you that we'll have more changes coming in the coming weeks and the coming months as well. Nobody likes drastic change. Nobody likes big moves. I understand that. And it affects different people different ways. And while I respect that those of you out there might have differing opinions of the decisions that I'm making, I expect you to support me 100%. When you question things in this company, you're questioning me. And I cannot allow that to happen. Business is about choices. I've made the choice to put my finances, my reputation, my passion, my love behind each and every one of you and this company. And it's time for you to do the same thing. You have a choice to make. You can choose to support me. You can choose to support the direction TNA is going, or you can choose not to. But you'll need to find another place to work. It's time for us to swing for the fences. It really is. No great success comes without risk, and I'm great with that. I hope you are too. Now's our time. I look out at the faces that have made this company, and you've made me very proud. But this is a test.
It just goes on and on and on. No, I can't. I can't.
In every way possible.
I can't. I got to turn it off.
And let's do this
thing.
Where is
it? Oh, my God. Imagine if that was Tony Khan. Oh, my God. That's painful. Painful. Dixie. Dolphy. Dolph Ziggler living his best life right now. He was at the Cleveland Browns game last week, and he showed a picture, everyone, of him eating some bologna sandwiches. As New Jack would used to say, bologna. Could I zoom in? Yeah, look at the, look, you could actually see like creases. The bologna. He's enjoying some bologna sandwiches right now. A little bit of bologna. Dolph Ziggler living the best life right now. He's funny, man. I'll never forget when he was involved with Trisha Papayas, whatever her name was. With all due respect, AEW Dynamite this week, I don't know how people are going to feel about these matches. To me, it had the potential to be a lot stronger this week, but you'll see what I'm talking about. MJF versus Daniel Garcia, I think is going to be a banger of a match. Mark Briscoe versus Jay White. I don't know if I would have wanted to see Mark Briscoe make his Dynamite return, especially it probably a lose to Jay White. Why would Jay White lose, on the path to Full Gear? Julia Hart, that we thought was going to be gone for months and months and months. She's taking on Red Velvet. Samoa Joe versus Keith Lee. Hopefully that is good. That's going to be an interesting test for Keith Lee. Swerve Strickland versus Penta. I don't know. I mean, when you've seen Penta do everything, I'm not as excited about Penta anymore. And when we get into the ratings on Wednesday, interesting that a lot of the high flyers in AEW are starting to draw some of the lowest ratings consistently. And I think that just goes to show you that when everybody dives and everybody does suicide moves and everybody does insane spots, people get numb to it. And it doesn't feel like ooh or ah anymore. I think it's just people are getting numb to a lot of this stuff. And because they needed to sweeten up the pot a little bit, even though it's not on this preview, this Wednesday, Sting and Darby Allin will be in action. And they're going to be taking on, drum roll please, the Outrunners. Wet fart. Not against the Outrunners, but yeah, no. Just imagine Sting 10 years from now. Yeah, what was the last couple of matches before you retired? Oh, yeah, we took on the Outrunners. You know what? If I'm the Outrunners, that's a special moment. They'll tell their grandkids, hey, when I wrestled back in the day, I sucked. I had no business being on TV, but you know what? I wrestled one of Sting's last matches. I guarantee you that match on Wednesday doesn't go 5 minutes. I'll make a prediction. NXT tomorrow, let's see if Jade Cargill confronts Lyra Valkyria. I don't know if it'll happen yet. Will we get the return of somebody? Possibly. But Lyra Valkyria tomorrow will be addressing her NXT championship win from 2 weeks ago. Also tomorrow we have Tiffany Stratton. She's going to take on Fallon Henley. The match that was supposed to happen last week, but it got cut because of time constraints. I don't know. Did Tiffany Stratton get a boob job? I'm just saying. Tyler Bate taking on Dijak. That should be a fun match. To me, this turned into wrestle crap so fast. Braun Breaker taking on Von Wagner. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. A week earlier, Von Wagner is in a hospital in therapy, like struggling to do a walker. A week later, he's out there beating up Braun Breaker. Now he's going to have a match. If, I will say this right now, if Von Wagner does not have half of his head shaved or all of his head shaved, it's going to be, for me, the dumbest storyline of the year. Because you don't go to the hospital, have a head injury, do a storyline for a month and a half that, you know, with the Mr. Stone and everything that, you know, oh, you're my friend. And then in storyline, he's got head injuries and they never cut his hair because they had to like do, when you do sonograms and you do, you know, that's going to look so dumb. And Von Wagner comes out there and he's got that big fucking lock of hair. If they didn't cut any of his hair for this storyline, I'm telling you, that is going to look, and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to think about that. But if you followed the storyline for a month and a half, that's going to look asinine tomorrow. I mean, a week ago, he's literally moving like a disabled 90-year-old who, you know, who's emotionally thinks he can move, but he can't. And then a week later, he's throwing ring steps around. That storyline turned to shit like that. And then we also have, let me bring it back up. Hold on a second. All right. Yeah, there's the boob job. There's Tyler Bate and Dijak. Here's Braun and Von. And then we have the opening matches for the Iron Survivor Challenge, and that'll lead to, obviously, NXT Deadline. I tell you, when they did the Iron Survivor Challenge last year, I didn't like the idea originally. Then I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. So I'm glad they're bringing that back. So, one other thing I wanted to mention, Collision, AEW Collision this Saturday. It's not a bad match. Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland versus Lance Archer and the Righteous. My only problem, and I've talked about this before, and I think we got to rehash the conversation Wednesday, is my problem is that a lot of their big stars, you could predict the outcomes. I mean, we get the outcomes 98% right all the time. I mean, very, very, very rare you get an upset. You know, like, I think isn't Sting undefeated in AEW? He might be undefeated. And yes, any match that Sting has, calling it a career, it's special. But, you know, I like to see matches sometimes where I can't pick a winner. And I don't like matches. And it seems like the matches that you can't pick a winner is the ones you don't give a shit about. Honestly. I mean, you look at this Dynamite card, seriously. I mean, if you remember when FTR lost the tag titles, that night we said there's no way they're going to lose to Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And then they lost. But then you found out that it had to do with something with an injury with Cash Wheeler. Then 2 weeks later, he's wrestling. Go figure. But you look at this Dynamite card. Jay White's going to win. Swerve Strickland is going to win. Julia Hart's going to win. Samoa Joe's going to win. And MJF is going to win. I will be shocked. Oh, and Sting and Darby Allin will beat the Blade Runners, the Intruders, the Outrunners, whatever they are, the Outhousers. I like that, the Outhousers. Just don't take a piss on the match Wednesday, Outhousers. All right, I'm going to jet out of here. Hope you enjoyed tonight's Raw post show. Your feedback always appreciated. If you're part of our Patreon family, I will be live tomorrow night at 10:05 p.m. Eastern, right after NXT. I sent a DM to Kev earlier to see if he could come on next Tuesday, which would be November 14th, and the 21st for Survivor Series predictions. Remember, the week of Thanksgiving, I will be away. So I will be returning that Sunday night. So Survivor Series, I will not be live right after it concludes to do a recap. I could do it remotely, but that video quality is shit. So I'd rather come up Sunday night and do the recap. But if Kev is available, the 21st of November, he and I will be doing Survivor Series predictions. And, it's only 2 weeks away. So a lot is going to go down in 2 weeks. SmackDown is going to be important. And remember, the women are going to have some type of Survivor Series deal as well. Not going to be War Games, but Kairi Sane making a return. And by the way, I saw the commercials today for Kairi Sane for SmackDown Friday. Very refreshing that she seems excited now. It was nothing against her, but at Crown Jewel, she had no reaction. You're standing next to your former Sky Pirates teammate. You would think that they would, Io Sky was, just smiling like she hit the lottery. And Kairi Sane just had this maniacal look on her face, so, now there's a little bit more of a smile. So we'll see what happens on Friday. And I'm out of here. Much love as always, everyone. I thank you for the support. And again, if you didn't check out the Crown Jewel review yet, do so, because we talked about a lot that is going to lead into Survivor Series. And actually, some of what we talked about kind of developed today. Actually, did develop today. So, definitely check that out. I am out of here, everyone. Be well. Talk to you all again soon. Ciao.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.